we can fall into this as coaches, and I'm guilty of it too. I'm not saying I don't do this. You can start to write guys off early. That's one of the most frustrating things. It actually pisses me off when I hear other coaches talk about some of these like younger players, like maybe the U18 and younger. How do you know what this kid is going to be? Like, they don't have roles yet. Like, they don't know. Like, I got guys on my team at U18 that got drafted to the OHL that barely know how to run a power play. How are we putting judgment on what these kids are going to be? I'm not saying this as like an advertisement or product placement. I'm just saying it because these were on the table when I sat down. If you guys haven't tried the Hydration Max from BioSteel, if you're on video, you can see. They're really salty. What did you do? Was it the first time you tried it yesterday?
I did the pickle juice yesterday.
Did you like it or no?
Yeah. Like, I'm not a real pickle guy.
Yeah.
and not a real pickle juice guy, but I tried it. It was pickly salt.
Yeah. It tastes like the popcorn salt.
Yeah,
like
that'd be a good way to put it. Yeah.
The chili mango one is my favorite.
That's what everyone's saying.
It's unreal. Salty watermelon's pretty good too. Lemon lime is good. It tastes like lemon lime, as it would, but they're super salty. So like the heavy sweater type people, which is like most hockey players when you're sweating a lot, Hydration Max. So check it out. Again, not an ad. They were just happened to be on the table when I sat here today. So what's up with
this?
You?
Just happened to be on the table today too. It's BioSteel grape with some
grape. What's your favorite? We've talked about this before, I think.
Mine's just like, I like them all.
I do too.
Grape I like a lot, and the mixed berry. It's kind of, I think it's the original.
Mixed berry is like the way to go.
Yeah,
I think.
But it's mixed with beetroot.
Oh yeah, you're a beetroot guy.
I'm a beetroot guy. Keep the blood circulating for the old boy.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, I like. It gives me good energy. Obviously, your blood's flowing.
Yep.
Amongst them.
I always say I'm a bad judge of BioSteel products because I'm too much of a fanboy. I'm too blinded from my youth when all the boys would come into the gym with their BioSteel, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever when I was like 16. I'm like, oh my God, like BioSteel, like I wish I could buy it. And they'd have the 100 scoops. 100 scoop was rare. Like, how are you getting 100 scoop? I used to think that. I'm like, how the heck are you getting these 100 scoop containers? There's no way.
Why did you think that?
Just because like they're expensive. It's a lot of servings. And I don't even know where you got them. I don't remember seeing like the 100
limited
scoop.
Places, I think.
Yeah, at the time, like this was way back. I don't know if it was just online you'd buy them or what, but they weren't at the stores that I remember. Maybe they were and I just didn't see them. But I only remember the
sports stores,
the medium sized, not the baby one, but the next biggest one. I forget what the servings, amount of servings 50. It is, but yeah, I think it actually is the 30 serving. But yeah, the 100 scooper was awesome. So. Anyhow, so I'm going to break. Do you have anything to intro before I jump into her here?
No, I'm good. I was at a cottage on the weekend. I liked it.
Cottage life. Cottage life. Good. Do you like going on like the boat and stuff, or is that not your vibe?
Did a lot of paddle boarding, kayaking, went on the boat a couple times, just jumped in the lake, out of the lake, in the lake, out of the lake.
What do you think of grounding?
I don't think about it because I just like it. I've always done it.
Yeah.
But I don't like calling it grounding because that's not what it is for me. It's just I don't like wearing shoes.
Because now it's a thing, but I always I recall noticing if I was barefoot in the grass or you're on the beach and you're barefoot in the sand, it just felt there's like a good feeling about it. So I don't know enough about it to know if it's a thing or not, but I was curious if you had any thoughts about that.
Because I liked even working out without...
Yeah, no shoes.
Yeah, I like being barefoot.
No shoes is great.
And in all situations.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so last week we talked about undervalued qualities in the players. I wanted to tail that in with the same thing for coaches, but we yapped for too long. So this week we're going to talk about that same thing for coaches. So I wrote down, like, these aren't the only 5, but these are kind of 5 that came to mind for me as undervalued. Maybe is not the exact right word, but things that, they're important, but they're lesser talked about.
So like you're saying a coach probably, if they're looking at coaching, they probably, like in general, the overvalued would be, of course, everyone thinks the number one thing to know is hockey systems, stuff like that. Whereas there's underlying things that make that part much better.
Yeah, I think that if you were to look at, or you're a coach and you're looking at getting new coaching resources for yourself for your own professional development, these wouldn't be the things that you would necessarily think. Or there's probably a lot of people that think they're really good at these things when they aren't actually. And kind of what I said last week was the idea of maybe hearing us say some of these things in a certain way would be trigger something for you mentally, like, oh, maybe that is something to reflect on again, or think about a little bit more. So that was the inspiration. So I'm ready to start unless you have something else to say.
So I'm good, bud.
You're writing things. You want to talk about your things
I
first?
just got little trigger points.
For later? Or for now? For later? Okay. So I'll start with my first one. So first one, undervalued qualities in coaches. The first one I wrote down was clarity. So actually being clear about what you expect, what your instructions are, and what you want to have done. What I maybe struggle with. I think I'm a relatively good communicator, but I definitely catch myself sometimes thinking that kids understand what I want more than they actually do. And there's been examples of that present themselves to me if I have a one-on-one meeting or something and we're talking and the kid is saying things that I thought I had already communicated, I thought I was clear about, I thought they did understand, and they completely did not. Not only did they not understand, they actually had no idea. And these are things that I, going into that conversation, might have been pretty confident that they had a good grasp on what I want, and they just don't. So that was the first one for me. You?
Yeah. When you say clarity, I think you can't be clear enough. That's a big time. A lot of times you go in long sentences and try to explain things a lot. But the other thing is the terms that you use. So like I would say that's a big thing. Like just maybe something like I always use the term honey hole, and someone might call it a slot or some whatever, strong side, whatever, honey hole, second quick. Like they sound like terms that you're going to use all the time. High to low, what does it actually mean? Because kids that never heard that before, you can assume that they get it because you've been around the game and they're terms that they've been around for so long that you think people just get it, but you have to explain it, right? So we got a lot of kids that will do that. So when you say a term, make sure they know what it is and then they can reference it as you start speaking.
That's one of the big things about general alignment, even within your coaching staff, is trying to have a common vocabulary. One example for me, because this happens, it's not just for coaching stuff. So my brother's in med school right now, and the more he learns, the more his vocabulary graduates to levels that I no longer understand. So when he's talking, just in his common parlance, he will say words that I have no idea what you're talking about, and he'll just cruise right on by it, maybe thinking I have heard that word or I know that word because that's part of his everyday. And when you're a coach, you're sitting around and you powwow with coaches all the time and you guys are using your terms or you've learned things from other coaches that you bring back to your team or to your group, you can take for granted that they are on the same level and know what you're talking about, and they have no idea. That was one thing that Aaron Wilbur said when we were talking a couple of weeks ago. He said the gems that help a lot of people are usually the things that are to you guys like tying your shoes, like super easy. You take for granted that people know these things and they don't know these things. So being really clear about that kind of stuff.
When you take a thing like, everyone talks about kids got a good stick. So if you just have your team for the first time and you're familiar with those terms, you know what that means. And you tell your kids, when you get back to your own zone, let's say, or you're angling someone off, make sure you have a good stick. Like, I know this sounds like ridiculous, but if you say that to a 10-year-old or a dad, need a good stick, maybe they go to the store and they buy a better stick, because that's actually what you could take that as, right? So anyways, being clear of what that is. So like if you are going to say something like have a good stick, say, guys, so does everybody know what that means, and be clear so that they know, right? So maybe it's a thing you could do with terms that you use, especially when you have a new team. When you say something, ask if you understand it, and then understand also. A lot of those kids might be reluctant to even lift their hand and say, I don't know if that means a good stick.
Yeah, for sure. So I listed a couple things. I'll just say them out loud. Things to be clear about, or things where you can improve clarity. Having simple expectations, clear roles, and clear standards. Giving clear feedback. And clear feedback is like specific feedback, precise feedback, like exactly what do you want and when do you want it, that type of thing. Players shouldn't have to guess what the coach values. So that's a big one. That should be clear all the time. And this plays into, just as you were talking, it was making me think of, I don't remember if it was last episode or before, I was talking about how simple systems are for me. at U18. Like these are guys that are going to jump into junior, jump to the OHL at some point, and I don't have a lot going on in terms of the system stuff because it helps with this exact point of just keeping things like very basic so I can keep hammering on the same things over and over and over and over and try to figure out new ways to communicate it or new ways to say the same thing that will resonate with them. Because most of the parents that are listening, like how many times you tell your kid to clean the room, they don't clean the room, and it takes hammering it into their head. So the more stuff that you have going on, the harder it is to really get them to grasp any one of those things that you have or that you want them to understand. So that's a huge thing too, is it kind of plays into that, the simple expectations. It's also just keeping the way you operate simple, not having too many things to focus on, not having too many things that are going to pull their attention, because maybe you're, as an adult, able to process way more information because you're mature and older and have experience. But for the 10 to 15-year-old, they don't have that. So it's going to take that time for them to, and the repetition for them to get it. And that all plays into clarity as well.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of being clear on feedback, so it's actually funny, but it's not funny at all. So one of my buddies who coaches a team and the general manager, they were called a player that's in junior hockey, and they called a kid in to cut him. And it took, so my buddy called me, he goes, like, it was so confusing because the manager was like going, basically we're going to go in a different direction, and we're looking at different players and basically cut them. So we think you should go here, but we want you to stick around and hang out because there might be some opportunity. And it went on for like hour and 15, hour and a half. And my bud's like, dude, I don't even know what you're doing right now. I don't know if you're cutting him, if you're keeping him.
Like it wasn't clear if the kid was actually cut or not.
No, the kid even looked at I don't want to say my bud, and he goes, what am I doing? I'm not sure what's going on. He goes, I don't know. Yeah, instead of so part of that is because obviously I'll say this about the manager: he's either doing one, bullshitting, or number two, didn't have the clear, concise way of cutting a player, right? So like in a situation like that, this is what I've noticed. This is something that I learned from George Burnett in Guelph. Saying less is actually saying more sometimes. Less is more. Just for example, when Charlie was traded, he obviously, I'm saying this in the best way, he took the time and brought the family in, and we knew that, like, we discussed it going in, but there was always even though we were friends and friendly and we had a really good relationship, there was always a point where it was cut short. Because when you start saying too much, then you can start getting emotional. You start saying things that you don't mean or whatever, and all that stuff. So he gave us the courtesy of bringing us in as a family, and we knew he was getting traded to Brantford for the deadline, and he knew it would be emotional for us, and it would be for him. And he was awesome about it, and he made it so that there was less emotion because it's hard, and he just basically said, I'm doing it for you. I want you to win. I wish you couldn't do it for us. And blah, 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 blah. You're going to grab your shit in the morning. I want you out before the guys get here. And explained it all really good, but it was very clear, very concise, very honest. But every time that we had a dealing with George, it was that way. It would be like if he called about something or we called him about something or talked to him, it would be cut it off there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you know exactly where you stand, and I always valued that with him.
Yeah, and a lot of people, that's a hard thing because this is going to play into my second one I'll go into, but it's a hard thing because people don't like the confrontation, and so you think that if you play the hokey pokey around the point a little bit, that it'll dampen whether it's something that's awkward or contentious or whatever the issue is going to be, but you're going to deal with the problem one way or another. So you might, and that doesn't mean you have to be a dick either, but just actually say what's going on and what you want and what the point is. It can be hard because people shy away from that type of interaction, especially when it's in person.
Yeah.
So
if you're clear, I'll just beat it for a second. If you're clear and concise about your standards, I'm going to keep it real brief. Clear and concise about your standards with your team, right? So that means, for example, if we're in the gym at 8 in the morning. Does that mean you're in the gym at 8 in the morning? Walking in? Does that mean you're ready to go? Are you warming up? Clear with that so there's no questions. Phones are left at that spot. They don't come in. That's not a question anymore. practice, you're writing your drills and it's clear so that they understand it. Maybe it's video before you set up. However you do it, it's clear so that you know. And then maybe you send it out before. Not that I do that, but like if that's what you need, you might have to send it out before for the guys that want to look at it. They see it once, they see it on the board. Maybe you do it before the practice or whatever. So now it's clearer and clearer, but then get clear and concise about what you want out of it. So like if you're doing let's just keep the most simplest drill ever. Let's say it's the horseshoe, right? So okay, you're coming down the ice, you're getting like you're coming around in a half circle, getting a pass to shoot at the other end. That's not clear. If you're coming out, you focus on the points that you want to be executed, right? So you come out. Here's a chance for you guys to work on your quick strides or your quick starts. When you're curling up the ice to get the pass, show them the angle that you want and the reason why. So you're cutting on this angle because you get nice and deep and wide. You make it easier for your player to send it past you and hit your tape. Now you've got a lot more ice that you can go up the ice with speed. When you shoot, I want to see it because it's a warm up drill. I want you to get used to moving your feet or hiding the puck in your feet, and that might be an explanation another day. And blah. So now if everyone's missing the net, maybe you forgot to say, hey, let's shoot to score, or let's hit the pads, or whatever the direction is. Clear, concise, right? And then when you're doing your systems, like as clear, as simple and clear and concise as you can be, so that when you make corrections, there's no wishy-washy stuff, and it's not about being robots. It's about this is how the team is going to work together. So if you're not in that position, things don't jive, and then corrections are made easier. And then when it's dealing with maybe a player is thinking he's doing one thing, not the other, now you can sit there and say, okay, so this is what we're doing. Now it might be video to make it a little bit more clear and concise, but don't be washy about it. And then if there's, the message would have to be you have to get this in order to get this. So that's why I always say know your players' goals and dreams and where they want to get and all that stuff. Because if you use that as your when you're doing constructive criticism or corrections or whatever, you're using that goal or tool for the repercussions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I think that's a good, useful illustration.
Yeah. I hope it was a long one. It wasn't that clear or concise, but.
Second one I had was emotional control. So maybe some people talk about this stuff, but the one thing that came to mind when I wrote this one down was sometimes there's and this could just be my bias maybe because I'm not a snapshow type, but I find with coaches sometimes there's a weird pride about being a snapshow. Do you understand what I mean by that? Where like some guys, they're almost like being like the crazy coach type of thing that like yells and screams and that kind of thing.
It's almost like you're trying to show how intense you are.
Yeah, like there's something like that.
Yeah.
And that is not my way of doing things at all. I think there might have been twice this whole season. We played 60-some games. Maybe there was twice where I even raised my voice. One time in particular, I kind of snapped, but I felt like I had a reason at that point. But regardless, I don't really align with that kind of mentality myself because I find that the bench will follow the emotional state of the coach. And I know we saw this a little bit the last couple of years with like certain coaches that we had dealt with, how you set the tone on the bench. And if you're yelling and screaming at the refs or snapping at every little thing, or you can't control your body language and that kind of stuff, I really do feel like it bleeds into the players on the bench. That's just for me personally. Some people might think you should be able to like the players should be able to separate that and not, but you're the leader and people usually follow the leader to some degree. So that's one thing that I think people talk about a little bit, but I don't know that many coaches think that that's something they need to work on. Like I just don't think it's okay to just be a snapshot on the bench about every little thing.
Yeah, personally. I think one of the big things. This is a principle that Jocko Willink uses in the Navy SEALs. It's like when you're in the middle of something, you don't really see what's going on, and when you step out and you look at it from what do you call the view? Bird's eye view, we'll call it, or detach yourself from the situation. You watch others, or you watch how people act or behave, however you want to say it. You can say, okay, that makes sense, or it doesn't to you. Okay, that's number one. But I don't think people realize how, because you want to win and you want to get your players motivated and stuff like that. But that's the fine line. Kids need to be motivated on themselves. Like players are motivated. And then how you bring the motivation out is one way. It could be a raw speech. It could be like losing it on someone. It might work. But like Nick Nurse, I wrote this down when you asked if I had something early in the session here today. Nick Nurse, he was the basketball coach for the Toronto Raptors, and they won the NBA. What do they call it?
NBA championship?
Yeah, the championship, world championship, the world for some reason. His book was phenomenal for coaching, and he used a lot of tactics that were good. But he said he had only, I think he said, I could be wrong, but I think he has 4 bullets or 3 bullets that he uses in a year. Meaning, when I pull a bullet out,
like the hammer kind of thing.
The hammer.
Yeah.
When he pulls it out, it's got to be like,
it better be like
because he only allows himself 3 a year. So if you do that, then you're going to probably pay attention to what really matters. So if you can detach yourself, maybe you see a guy that's, let's just say you're playing a team, one of the big teams, and the super teams or something like that, and the coach is like super like all over them and stuff like that, and it looks like he's so intense. It's like he can do whatever he wants. He's got the best players. So it looks good, and probably he feels like a big wheel, like, and it's almost a reflection, like they're good because I'm good.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can look at that and say, you can look at it, whatever, and then you can look at another team that might be really good, and the coach is like real quiet, and it's like, So Chuck Knobloch, or is that his name? Yeah, Knobloch, that coached the Oilers. Like there was zero emotion on this guy, right? He was like cool as a cucumber all day long. It didn't matter, and so you could sit there. Well, there's no emotion, but he was very intelligent, and he could speak to them, and anyways, my point to this is that you look at what you want to be as a coach, and then that emotional control actually means something. So if you're snapping all the time, right? Like, so you go to the Nick Nurse and you use 12 bullets a month, or 3 bullets a day, people tune you out, and it's like, okay, he's just nuts. It doesn't really matter. But when you use it for when it's important, that makes more sense. The other thing with that is, what do you want to be? So like for me, I watch, like even in our documentary series, and I watch coaches that coach youth, and trust anybody that listens to me, probably anybody that knows me knows that how I am in real life. But I'm an old school hockey guy, and my language is a certain way, and sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's inappropriate. But I've chosen, and I really do try around the kids to limit the amount of I don't think swearing is a bad thing at all. But when you get intense, or when you get emotional, or you're trying to rile someone else, using curse words elevates the intensity, right? Can you pass me the pen, or can you pass me the pen? There's a difference, right, in the intensity. But I'm choosing to really try to limit my language around them the best that I can. It's hard because I try around my family and stuff like that, like to a certain extent. Like I'm not,
not a
like,
church boy.
No,
here.
but I just don't want every second word is a habit, right? So I do want the kids to be able to have just a conversation, and of course you're going to throw some stuff out there. But I'm really trying to make a conscious effort to reduce the language and just have more intellect than fire. Yeah. Because like the game is hard, man, and sometimes, I don't know, you won't regret not doing it. But I am honestly not telling anybody don't swear, because I'm the worst. But I'm going to make a conscious effort so that doesn't bite me in the ass, or you're using that extra emotion. The other thing that I would say about the emotions, and I'm sure you're getting to, is I have a rule. And when I was on the bench with your team, I was on the bench with Rich's team, any team I go on, I have a rule that, number one, you can't lay on the ice if you get hit, even if you think you're going to get a penalty for it. I don't want it. So that's a standard. It's clear. If you do, and the trainer has to come out, then you have to get a doctor's note to come back. That's a rule that I have. A lot of people say, well, what if he's hurt? Well, if he's hurt, then I did the right thing. If he's not hurt, you get up, limp to the bench, and if you're okay, you're okay. So you learn how to be tough. That's a philosophy I have. The other one I have is, I just do not understand berating refs. No, I shouldn't say that. I understand it, but it will not do you any good. So for me, and when parents are, maybe judging my coaching style, they might say like, he's not into it. Like, that's not true at all. I try to have conversations with the ref if necessary, But the bottom line is, I've learned over life, you're not going to win the battle. And even if you're nice, you still might not win the battle because refs are refs. And so why engage in that? If they call 14 tripping penalties in one shift, it is what it is. You know, they already know you're pissed off at them. But more importantly, with my players, I have a rule that you do not talk to the other team and you do not talk to the refs. And that might sound like, why can't you say hi to your friend? Well, you can nod or whatever, but I don't want my players involved with the other team. Here's an example. If we're playing, who's one of our good grinders as it gets under the skin over the last couple of years of the other team?
Carter Boileau.
Okay, he's out there and he's a grindy. People don't like to play against him. He's just hard to play against. Pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So as a coach, if you can know him a little bit, or if you start joking around, hey man, like you start talking, if I can get Carter Boileau just to engage in that a little bit, I mean, number one, I might throw myself off, my own player off the game. But if Carter, I'm going to stick to Carter, sorry. If Carter engages in, yeah, good, everything's good, yeah, our facility's sick, blah, 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 there becomes a little bit of a friendliness there. And in that friendliness there, that might be enough to take a little bit of edge off of Carter from hammering this guy. So don't act like you're ever his friend. So, and I gave that my advice to my son. I said, because there's guys out there, they're going to belly up to you because like, especially if they know you, and maybe you won't hit me as hard, or maybe I'll be easier to play against, right? Give me a little room, right? And the other thing is, and then the chirping and all that stuff, it gets you in trouble. So it's like a class thing. It's like, it's a stoic thing. It's whatever. It's like, we're going to go play the game. We're going to play it by our rules, our way. And if you're offended, oh, well, we're not going to be friends out here. We'll talk after. I'm that way with other coaches too. I really don't want to talk to you. Hi, how you doing? Like, we could be friendly, but we're not friends until maybe after the game. And then definitely not with the refs. I do not want chirping from my refs. I lose my mind on the kids for that because it only gets you in trouble. So just go play the game, play between the whistles, do your job. And if you get screwed, you get screwed. And if you don't, whatever. But I always want to have that. I always want to have like the refs or other teams say, yeah, like they can't really say much about them. They're maybe except for good things.
Yeah. I would be curious. Well, as you're talking, I was reflecting on my own, like when I'm on the bench, like how I'm behaving on the bench. I'm pretty chill. I don't get going too much. And I'd be curious to think, like, to hear about like what the perception is of me. Is it coming across as like, well, he just doesn't care that much, or he doesn't have enough emotion? Or I'd be curious because for me, I find it to be effective with the group that I have because I'm more, like you said, I forget what the coach, Nick, that you said that has the bullets. That is rare for me. Like if I come out, if I'm firing, like the guys know, like this is serious this time, you know, and I don't want to use that. And the thing too is like, it's trying to teach or keeping at the forefront what the point is of your coaching. Like, why are you coaching? What's the point? And for me, this is just personally, my philosophy is I'm not trying to go be an NHL coach. That's not a goal that I have. For me, it is about getting the kids to learn the lessons that'll prepare them for the next thing that they're going to do. And part of that, having that composure has been such a valuable tool for me to learn. And I want them to have that, where you can choose if you're going to snap or not just you uncontrollably snap all the time. You want to, I think it's a valuable tool to be able to snap, but you want to be able to choose when you're going to snap and when you're not going to snap. And I think that's something that these kids need, that they need guidance on that. And they need an example of things that are appropriate and not appropriate. And I can see it. I watched so many games, every rink we were in, I watched the dynamic of how the coach is on the bench versus what the players are like on the bench. And there's usually a pretty good correlation between snapshow coach, chaos on the bench versus guy that's calm, that you feel has a good command, and the kids are in order. Everybody's sitting. Everybody jumps at a certain time, you know, and there's just a different tone to how the bench operates. And I always have aligned on that side of it, of just, you want these kids to be capable and have the tools to, what my team last year was a great example. It was like big, rough and tough, mean, could hammer guys. We had that tool in the belt. When we didn't need it, we shut it off. When we needed it, we turned it on. And we started to develop this good balance of how to use the emotion effectively. But if you don't have a handle on that, it's going to be lost on your guys. Like there's no chance you can reel them in, at least from what I've seen.
It's another thing George said too, right? We were talking, and he likes, he's old school, but he gets it. Like, he's a smart person. And there's guys, like, here's the thing though, someone could argue and say, yeah, but if you have like Brad Marchand or whatever, they're nonstop yapping, but like there's an art to it, and that's how he gets paid, and he's very good at it, and not going to happen on my team though. But what was I going to say about it? Yeah, so talking to George, like, that's what he said. I told you this about when Wyzek scored his first goal with the Storm. I think it was a preseason. He said the best thing about his celebration is there wasn't. And he talked, he said about Charlie the same thing. He goes, I told him, just be quiet, don't yap, just let your actions speak, because everyone's the toughest guy. Everyone talks like, oh, I'm going to rip your head off, I'm going to do this, I'm going to kick your ass, all these things, but it's like, then just do it.
Yeah,
just do it.
Steve, I would say that guys bluff. Everybody bluffs.
Yeah,
right?
People bluff. Yeah, so your talk is cheap, right? So it's like, that's the principles I want to teach my kids. So anyways, I kind of went off there, but that's the emotional control that I think is very important to me. And whatever. So you might be a coach that says, no, I want my kids to be absolute maniacs. That's up to you. Like, if you want an emotional, like Mike Keenan was chaos all the time. He coached through chaos. If something was good, he'd start something just to make chaos work for him. That was his tool. And he drove players nuts, and they didn't know whether they should shit or wind their watch. But something was coming all the time. So, like, I'm not saying my way is the way you need to do it, because, like, who the hell am I? But it's like, your philosophy is important, and what you don't get what you want, you get what you tolerate. So if you tolerate this or this, that's what you're going to get.
Yeah, that's a good way to finish it too, because I think the way I was just talking about it, it could come across as like, be this way, but that's not what you got to figure out what works for you. But to me, like I said, from what I've seen, is usually it's with the kids especially too. Like, I think Mike Keenan, like, that's a different demographic when you're coaching the NHL and you got a bunch of adults. I think with the kids, it's like, I just find it to be more, from what I've seen at least, it's more effective when you have that ability to turn the dials that you want and not have the dials turn you. If that's a saying that I just made up.
Well, there was like John Dean with the Sioux Greyhounds. Like, so he coached against Charlie for 4 years or 5 years. And like, I'm going to say this the wrong way, but it's like, couldn't stand him. Because it was like all game. This guy would, like, any call the ref was getting it. Like, a kid would make a mistake, but that's how he coached. Who are we to say that's not the way to do it? Because he was very successful in the OHL, right? And he's going to go. He's coaching pro, I think, now. So like, it is what you want it to be. The other thing, last thing I'll say about emotional control is you have to, and I think this is actually important. Well, but again, it's a coaching style. You have to realize that the game is going to be a lot of mistakes, whether it's practice or games or whatever. And if you bark at every little thing, like, again, it's like, how many bullets do you want to use? So I think in my opinion, your best teaching is you have good hard practices and you do most of your correction there. And you're pointing out, and the play-by-play during a practice. That's where you're probably the most vocal. And then when it comes to the game, the kids need to play. And if you're barking everything at them, like, they don't hear you really. Maybe a couple cues here and there, but they don't really hear you. So let them play. And then when there are things to show, you can get on the whiteboard, or assistant coach get on the whiteboard, or in between periods, but like, leave it a little bit. The biggest thing that I would be emotional about would be effort. Like, just, are you just want to be here today? And that's something that I think deserves a little bit, but that's me again.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Anyways.
So I'm going to list these and then I'll go to the next one. Just a couple things, like triggers about the emotional thing to finish it up. Not overreacting to mistakes, not coaching out of frustration, not panicking in games. I actually see that a lot, where coaches get panicky, and you can really sense that as a player. Not making emotional lineup decisions. And a lot of times just players are going to mirror what you're doing as the coach. Like, if you want chaos and you're chaos, like, that's what you're going to get. But this plays kind of, you've been starting to say, like, it's a philosophy or it's a style, a coaching style, whatever. You brought this one up, which I thought was good, as the third one is confidence in your identity as a coach. We kind of put that phrasing on it together. So you brought that one up. So talk a little bit about what you mean when you say having confidence in your identity as a coach.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's hard for me to explain it all in one, but I'll just try. So like I use some of my identity in the last little bit. My identity is I want to have a team that they look like they're cool under pressure, that they respect the logo. And I'm not just saying that as words. Like I want them to respect everything we do because we're part of it. I don't want them to engage in a whole bunch of crap. I want them to be, every coach does, but I want them to be a very hardworking team. That's the standard. I want them to do the little things right. And but the bigger thing is my confidence in our identity would be like, of course we're competitive people, but my identity, our identity at the school is it's not about the win only. It's about learning how to win, developing habits how to win. It's about development, which is a big word that means nothing most of the time. It's about developing a player and watching them get better throughout the year, and that might come at the cost of maybe winning a game early in the season. But to me, that's a long road, and it's a long season, and there's a lot of practices and a lot of times to do things. And my identity is to make every kid on the team a better hockey player, help them get to the goals that they want to get to. And I think, in my belief, and I've seen it for myself and the teams that I've coached, is that if you stick to that plan for a long period of time, like over not 2 weeks, but if you stick to it, overall, not like you can't tweak things here and there, overall, you're going to probably get the results you're looking for. I've seen that. So, is it systems? For some coaches, that's their identity. They're going to be a very systematic team. Cool. If they, whatever. If it's about development, not about winning at all, that's going to have a different edge. But we're kind of in a combination of both, which I think is possible. But the thing is if it's all about winning, and like sometimes you're the Russians playing, like the old Soviet Union playing, Shoppers Drug Mart or Germany back in the 80s. You're not probably going to win. Sometimes they do. The USA beat them the one time. Sometimes you do lose, but like if it's all about winning, then you're in one, right? So it's about developing, and I think long term, if you do that consistently over time, you get players that at the end of the year, they go, if they really look at the ice time, yes, there's going to be kids that get extra this and extra that. And maybe some kids, and here's another philosophy, is putting people in situations where they could succeed. So like I've used this before. I've had players where they would like to get on the power play, and we're at an age that they were getting scouted and drafted and scholarships and stuff like that. And I said, like, if I put you in this situation, like this is the identity that I see you as. Do you agree? Yeah, okay. If I put you in this situation, you don't look as good as you can be. So now I'm putting you in a situation where you might fail. Or it's okay to fail and make mistakes, but you look uncomfortable. This is where you're going to be strong and be a better player. So it's the identity of building a player, building a team, but doing it together but a long term. So like what happens with this is like you're going to get a mixture of parents. You're going to get maybe scouts or people that are watching your game, or your buddy who coaches somewhere else. That like for me, for example, I know Steve Ott coaches pro. I know Bobby Bugner coaches pro, coaches the Spitfires. I know like all these different coaches, Mike Weber and all that stuff, DJ Smith, all these guys are friends of mine. And if they were to have a kid on the team or something like that, they might say, well, your power play needs this, that, blah, blah, blah. And they go on. It's like, yeah, that's your coach at a pro level. This is not the pro level. It's not about always the win. So anyways, you can get 18 sets of parents, and everybody, you might have 6 that winning at all cost. You might have some that it's a development at all cost, and whatever else, right? So if you typically, if you listen to the win at all costs, those are usually your best players, parents that want them on the ice all the time. The development people, parents, are going to want, well, my kid gets a chance too. That's what they're going to want. And then the other people are going to, whatever. I'm just throwing it out there. So you're never going to make people happy. So what happens if you're going to have a beer with one of the parents or a couple of your buddies that you listen to, and you start thinking, okay, maybe I should get away from this, and I got to work on the power play or the whatever part of the game, and it's not what you believe in, then you're not true to yourself. You're not true to your team, and you're faking it, and it's hard to coach. It's hard to do anything when you don't believe in what you're doing. So you stick to your guns, and at the end of the day, If you believe what you believe, but that's part of being clear and concise early. This is what we believe. This is what we're trying to accomplish. So that when you do sit down with someone, they can say, that's what we're trying to accomplish. At the end of the year, your son is a better player. At the end of the year, our team is a better player, and you can see it as we're closing margins or winning games or whatever, right? So long answer again.
No, that's all right. This would be the way I would wrap that up is I don't know that a lot of coaches have actually had the conversation with themselves about that type of stuff, especially in youth hockey. It's like, what do you actually care about? What do you want to prioritize? Have you actually, have you written it down? Have you really developed a thought process about how you want to deliver the message within your coaching for this year? A lot of guys, I'm sure, have not done that. A lot of coaches, I'm sure, have not done that. So if you haven't, that's probably a good place to start, because if you don't even know what your identity is, it's hard to have confidence in what your identity is if you don't have one, or you've never talked to yourself about it or figured out what it is that you care about. So that's probably a useful place to start, is what do you want to be? What, as a coach, what do you care about? What do you value? What are the things that you want to focus on, rather than going blind, figure it out on the fly? Like, try to have some preparation for yourself, because that's where you'll start to find the confidence. If you're somebody, maybe you align with the way we think about things. Like for me, I can always tell what I care about by my gut feel. And so when for example, we won a lot of games this year with my team. I think we lost 10 games all year, something like that. Maybe a couple more. There were games we won that I did not think we played well. So I'd come in the room after, and I wouldn't be happy about the game. I wouldn't necessarily shit on them for winning a game, but I would definitely point out what the things are that I didn't like, or that I didn't think we did well, because that's my focus. That's what I care about as a coach. If you just get really excited because your team won the game, or you came back when you were down a couple goals, you knew you played horrible, but then you're in the room after all happy because you pulled it out. So, okay, what is the thing that you value here as a coach? And the easiest thing to say is the difference between winning and development, because that's the clearest kind of trade-off thing that we talk about. But there's all kinds of little things within that. Like, how much do you care about back checks? How much do you care about the way they talk to each other? How much do you care about what the communication is on the ice? How much do you care about your face-off? Like, all those little things you can find where you have your values as a coach. But if you've never given yourself the time to actually think about what you care about, it's going to be really hard to deliver the message if you don't know what those things are. So you should take some time.
There's 2 times. I just thought about this, as you said about that, about your gut feel and you know what's right. There's 2 times when I was coaching where I knew, don't do this. So one, I was coaching Bell Tire, and I had a coach with me that was a really good NHLer, good OHLer, and a very good coach. He was an assistant coach with me, and I liked coaching with him. He was a shit disturber. And we had a really good team. And beginning of the season, I don't know if it was him, someone else was, or maybe some of the kids went to him and said, when are we picking a captain? And I was pretty clear. I said, we have such a good team when everybody is a leader. I said, I don't really want to screw this up by naming someone a captain, because I knew if I gave captains, I would have to give, if I would have gave 17 C's out, then they would have been pissed at that. So I knew that we can't have a captain. This is going to be bad. So it was like a couple months in, maybe close to Christmas. Coach goes, I really, and he was a really good NHLer. I really think we should have a captain, but he liked to stir it because he knew it was going to happen. And I'm like, I don't know, man. He goes, here's what I think. I think we should take this player because he works hard. I go, yeah, but he does work hard. And I don't disagree with you. And I think that was our safest bet, not to ruin everything, but to give him a thing and make him feel important. I said, yeah, you know what? I'm good with that. We'll just have one letter. I'm good. You know what? I'm kind of good with that. I said, but I'm like, I don't want to do this really, but I got my morals twisted a little bit. I don't know if that's as deep as that, but I went against my gut feel. The next day, 3 phone calls. One wanted to quit the team. He was he was 1 or 2, but still playing pro. His dad was just flipping his lid, and I'm like, should have stuck to it, right? Because you know what? I'd rather 18 people be a little bit wondering why we don't have a captain rather than splitting the team up like that. And not to say that this year I'm not going to, because there's some kids that have got some leadership qualities that I really like, but I know more now what I like as a captain. Yeah. And we're together so much that it actually is a good thing to have. But they're going to have to earn that too.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's a good story to kind of illustrate that trying to have that confidence in what you believe, like as a coach. I think it's important. But same thing. I made a little list of things. So I'll just read them out. Obviously, you want to know what you believe in. Have a clear coaching philosophy. Not changing your identity every time a parent, somebody complains or there's a result that wasn't the way you wanted. I think that's a big one. If you don't get the result, that's where you can start to feel the foundation shake a little bit. But if you're, again, you have a concept of what you care about and you stick to that, because you're not going to get the result every time.
Well, it's almost like when people say, I don't know if this guy can get in the Hall of Fame. He hasn't won a Stanley Cup. Well, what does that have to do with it, really? Did he not have a Hall of Fame career?
Yeah.
It's not really him that wins Stanley Cup. It's a team thing. So anyways, I digress.
No. And then the last one is going to be, you want to have your confidence, or not your confidence. You want to have your identity articulated to yourself, but then you still need to leave the door open to learn some stuff. That's the other part of it too. It's like confidence doesn't mean stubborn. So you don't want to be super stubborn as a coach. You can be like very confident in your convictions about what needs to be done, but leaving the door open to learn. That's a huge thing for me. Is I feel like I have a pretty good system for how I operate stuff, but I know I'm not the best coach. So I know that I have a lot to learn in terms of the technicalities of the game, and even the relation stuff with the kids, and like how I talk to them and how I'm triggering them and giving them coaching cues and all that stuff. I have so much to learn in those areas for sure. And so making sure that even though I'm relatively confident, I have a good way of thinking about things in terms of, being a development focused guy and all that stuff. I want to make sure I'm not shutting out new learning opportunities. So like drawing that line between confident and being stubborn about what you think. So that's important. This actually a little bit plays into the next one, is being patient with development. That was the next one that I said. So what I was thinking of on this is it kind of goes with the emotional thing a little bit and your identity. Guys aren't going to get stuff right away. It takes a time. Development's a process. And so when you get guys in pro hockey, they're pretty close to being the finished product of like what they are, more or less.
Now you're just refining.
Yeah, right. So if you're Charlie, he goes into pro this year, like he's more or less what he is going to be. He's pretty close. He's got it still. That doesn't mean he has a lot to learn about the pro game and how to fit in as a pro. But in terms of how he plays hockey, like he's pretty much the type of player he's going to be. And then it's figuring out how that fits within a structure and a system now. So when you're in youth, that's not how it is. Guys are trying to figure out what they are. Guys don't know what they are. They have no idea. They don't know what their potential is. They don't know how they're going to grow. They don't know how strong they're going to be, how big they're going to be, how fast they're going to be. They have no idea. And so there's a big time process to that piece of it. So we had a kid, one example that just came to mind. Kid for me this year came from Latvia, Tom's. So he came from huge, big, long, lanky guy, like 6'5", and he came clearly from a place where he had never really been coached with any type of systems before. Kid worked hard, wants to learn, would ask you a million questions, but he was behind in understanding systems. It wasn't something that you could see he had already been playing in a little bit. Like, you can tell guys at least have seen this before, or at least have heard this before. He didn't have much of that. Plus there was the language barrier that he's from a different country. So when he comes in, I know that there's going to be a process for this guy. I know that it's going to be discouraging for him. I know that he's not going to do exactly what I want right away. I know that there's going to be this time that has to pass for him to grasp some of the stuff that we're talking about. And that is a pain in the ass as a coach, because if you're the guy that like wants it today and you're not clear about what your standard is and what you care about, you can lose patience, like big time. You can lose patience. And so I'd have to calibrate my patience level with every kid differently, because there are certain kids that some expectations are fair and there are certain kids that it's not fair. And so this is usually where you get into, you'll hear coaches say sometimes with some of their guys, is that you're at a bit of a higher standard than some of the rest of the guys because of your ability or because of your leadership or because of your character or whatever. And you have to change that calibration depending on who the kid is, because everybody's different. And that's such a valuable lesson to know. Like that process for them to get better is going to be different for every kid. And that's going to require different kind of patience that you need to have with all those kids going through that process.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I feel
No, it does. I'm just looking at, just real quickly with the kids that are on my team right now that are new. Well, they're all kind of, no, they're not really. Anyways, got some new kids on the team that are new, and there's some gaps there that, like, a few of them said, wow, we've never practiced this hard. This isn't even hard yet.
Yeah.
We've never done drills that are like, and they're not that complicated drills. They're just, there's some moving parts, and I'm no genius here. Like no, it's not like I've got the greatest drills in the world. We just run good practices, but like there's a lot of skill involved within the drills and like a lot of stuff going on, and they're like almost overwhelmed. So like just that alone, having the pace of practice is going to be something for some of them. And these are good players. And then I could see with a couple of them, like there's a certain skill level that they need some work. And I know that's going to take time, but I also know the way that we run our practices and when we split up in our skill stuff, like I know what I'm focusing on in general, and then specifically for a few of these guys that are going to make themselves better. I can see after 5 skates that they're already starting to get better because of, the coaching cues that we're using and just the touches alone that they're getting with the coaches' cues is making a big difference. And then that starts to elevate. And there's going to be some guys that, I'm not going to think of a drill here, but whatever, you're doing something and they already call for pucks. They're doing all the right habits and they don't stick in, like it's just on and off their stick and it's done well. That this stuff is like, well, it's not that hard, but it's good for them. But the guys will not catch up, but they're going to get to a place where it's good.
Yeah. It pissed me off, like, because I think we can fall into this as coaches, and I'm guilty of it too. I'm not saying I don't do this, but you can start to write guys off early. And it's like, that's one of the most frustrating things. It actually pisses me off when I hear other coaches talk about some of these like younger players, like kids, if you're not in the OHL, even if they are in the OHL, but younger, like 16 and under, but even later. But for me, it's maybe the U18 and younger. It actually pisses me off because how do you know what this kid is going to be? Like, they don't have roles yet. Like, they don't know. Like, I got guys on my team at U18 that got drafted to the OHL that barely know how to run a power play. It's like, so how are we putting judgment on what these kids are going to be? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, so I'm going to go back to old Georgie boy here. Geez, maybe he was a smart guy. Yeah. We were talking about scouting. We're friends, right? Like, not like we don't go out for dinner and stuff, but we're friends. We have nice conversations. And I was, we'll get it. Hey, what are you doing today? He goes, yeah, I saw this guy here. What about that guy in Windsor? And say some things. And I go, really like this guy. He goes, yeah, you just don't want to fall in love too early. I said, oh, like, yeah, I laughed. And I go, what do you mean by that though? He goes, I've seen this many times where you see someone at the beginning of the year and you go, okay. And you say, that's going to be a top guy. And then you're going to find all the reasons why you believe in that, where you put the blinders on, you don't see what's really there. So he goes, you don't fall in love too early. You watch, you take notes, and it becomes a mathematical equation, right? And then several times, and I would say thank you to him because he didn't write my son off too early. And not that he should have, but he could have. But he said those words to me. He goes, a lot of times people write people off too early. And, because if you're a first, second round pick and you're supposed to do this, the expectations are somewhere around there. Maybe it's just a coaching thing. Maybe it's the team's deep. Maybe he just can't get enough ice to get that, right? Maybe his confidence shot and it's going to come in a different way. So maybe there's a growth spurt. Maybe he has peaked, whatever. So he always gave kids the time, unless they had zero heart, but if there was something there, he always gave kids the time to at least, I've given you 2-3 years, right? And he was really good at that. And then, that's wisdom. That's years of wisdom, because then you all of a sudden you see a kid in the second year, third year, fourth year go breakout season. And it happens a lot. And if you write someone off early, someone else reaps the benefits of that, or, like the quick fix doesn't always work.
Well,
So,
I love that Dalton Pro would say that when he scouts, is try to find the good. I'm finding myself more and more and more and more leaning into that when I'm recruiting for our teams or looking at guys that we have. It's like, what's the job that this guy could do that they could be good at, as opposed to, of course, they have all kinds of stuff they're no good at. Like, of course, like, are you a genius because you could pick out that he's not good at this or that or whatever? No, but it's the genius is you take a kid like that maybe has a lot of holes and you figure out what's going to make him tick to make him effective. That's the challenge of doing this. That is fun. It's like, let's figure out where I can take this kid that, yeah, maybe he wasn't going to be my first choice that I would take because he's not a superstar. Okay, now what? I don't want a team of superstars. I couldn't get a team of superstars even if I wanted to. So now what do? How can I find a way to make this kid work? And then even like with my team, like I think I got, okay, so our roster increases at U18 or we have 4 lines now. That's a big change for a lot of forwards. Those guys that are my bottom end guys, well, how do I figure out a way for them to be effective? Do I just say, oh, they're no good, they're not going to play? And I see that all the time, man. I'll look at I do pre-scouts and I look at Instat, I'll look at the other teams, and the discrepancy between top guy to bottom guy is crazy. And if you looked at my team from last year, there's probably a range also.
There has to be some.
But I know that in the games where I can make up for that, or in the games that I need, more focus on the defensive side or whatever it is, like these guys that aren't the offensive flash guys, you find ways to give them the love so that they have still a good experience, a development experience, and they actually will contribute to the team. It's not just a pity shift. It's like find a way to make them contribute. Like that's the challenge is doing that part of it,
Yeah, one guy that's really good at that is DJ Smith.
Oh, yeah.
So obviously a friend of ours. And when he was assistant coach with the Spits, and then he got the head job in Oshawa, won a Memorial Cup. But in that time, Hunter Smith, one of our local boys, big boy, was just not getting what I guess they were almost they were writing him off. Like it was like he's just 6'6", 6'7", and just doesn't have it, doesn't get it, and DJ grabbed him. So I can see, I see what I see in him, and won a Memorial Cup, got drafted in the 2nd or 3rd round of Calgary.
Yeah, 2nd round of Calgary, yeah.
And that's a DJ thing. He gave him an opportunity, said, this is what I see in you, and he did it. Now, part of it is, like, you can't push a rope, or you can't play pool with a rope. You need a stick, so you need a player that's willing to embrace getting better or finding a way to be the best that he can be. If the player is willing to, you're probably going to get something out of him. If he doesn't have a heartbeat, that's a whole different thing. Then that's where you maybe try to give him one, but that's a tough thing to do. But DJ was really good at that, and there were several players that he got that were people were like, really? Yeah, he made them. He brought the best of them. I'm not saying that he made them the best players, but he made them valuable pieces of the organization. And I'll give him a lot of credit for that. He's very good at it.
That's the kind of part, like I said, that's part of the puzzle as a coach, finding out how you can make those guys effective. That maybe you have a team and it's like you got a bunch of scrubs because that's who showed up to tryouts. Okay, now what? You're just like poopy pants as a coach because your team's no good. It's like,
it seems like we'll have to be a hard working team.
Yeah, and when it plays into what you said before, is like I'm really looking forward to getting your feedback through the year now that you're going to be on the bench, because you're going to go to play a bunch of these super teams with a bunch of these superstars where like you said, the coach thinks they're the genius. It's like you have all of the best guys. You didn't have to coach. You could have been not there, and it actually probably wouldn't have mattered too much, And I'm looking forward to seeing that, because the real challenge as the coach is if you don't have that, if you can't just let your superstars go play, or you take your top 3 guys and they play the whole game so that you win, like that's not coaching now. That's not coaching. You're just letting your good guys go play, and that's the difference. And you get into junior and you get into pro levels, college, whatever, and it becomes way more of a shell game with the coaching, because you actually have to coach your guys, because now everybody's good. Everybody's pretty much the same. And now you got to figure out how to win the chess game,
Yeah,
So
100%.
Last one I had was relationship building. So I feel like there's probably a little bit of talk that people do about this thing, how it's important to ask kids about their day and what's going on in their life and all that. But I still think it's kind of underserved, because at least what I find is you get guys to resonate with you. You'd be surprised on how much they're willing to buy into what you're trying to do if they trust you. And I think that trust only comes with kind of spending the time. So talk a little about that from your angle, because I think for me, I think I naturally have an advantage because I'm younger and I look younger. Yeah. So I just feel like I'm more relatable to those kids that are my U18s or whatever. So from your angle, how do you think about that, the relationship part and building that where they have some trust with you as the coach?
It's funny. It's interesting that you said because you're younger, it might resonate with you, might resonate the more. I'm not saying I don't disagree. I disagree or I don't, but I'll say it this way. Tell me a time in your life. You don't have to say names or anything like that, but can you remember a time in your life where you had a coach, a teacher, an uncle, an aunt, a parent, whatever you want to say, any facet of your life where someone was just, good morning, um, here's your breakout, here's our practice, goodbye. And then if you did something wrong, they told you did something wrong. Did you ever feel good about that? Right.
That was most of my experience.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Nothing
and then
impactful.
someone comes along. I don't care if they're 110. I don't care if it's a woman. I don't care if it's a little boy. I don't care what it is. A little girl that just thinks you're the best hockey player ever or whatever. If you get a compliment, you feel better about it. Okay, so that's like obviously. But for someone to pull you aside to take the time and just, Eric, how's it going today? That's easy. But ask you a question and just, you talk to me like nice or crack a joke or whatever, like once is fine. But like if it's almost like a regular thing, like if you're sitting there like in our lounge and we're having a coffee, I love that. Sitting there, the boys come in, we shoot the shit a little bit. It's a natural thing, but they realize, oh, coach is human. Coach asked me a question. Coach made me laugh. They like you. They like you. And when people like you, they will do things for you. And you don't do that because you want them to do things for you. But and Rod the Bod in Carolina, that's all they say. He's just the best guy. And that's his way, and he knows his team. But people, it's the old thing, right? People don't care how much you know until they know how much they care about you, right? So again, that's about you is important, because if I'm talking to your centerman all day about how great he is, and you do this, and you don't get anything, like you're sitting, okay, he likes him, he doesn't like me. So it's not just a little bit important. I think it's probably the most important thing. You will get kids if they see a coach that cares about them and puts time in, and maybe he's in a pickle and doesn't know what to do. A kid might stand up and just, coach, play for the coach, right? And I've just seen it even with, I've got a couple OHL kids in this one skate that I have, and one doesn't really speak. And no. So we're talking about writing guys off or just like, screw this guy. And I have no real reason to put time and effort in because he's a pretty good player. He doesn't speak. He's like not a real good personality, but every time he comes out for the last 2 years, well, I would say more this year because I didn't see him a lot last year. I just go up to him and say, what's going on? How's the workouts going? And now he's starting to give me a sentence or two with a smile. And now when I get him to talk a little bit, like ask a question, like, hey, I'm not going to say his team. Hey, I talk about communication a lot with the players on the ice. And I said, hey, with coach, whatever, on your team, you guys have to talk, and he has to speak out. And I said, see, and I let the kids that are younger than him look at him and say, like, they respect you to speak. So like he feels like he's not just here for skate anymore. He's here to get better, and he's going to give me more effort, more time. He's starting to, at the end of practice, help get pucks and shit. He wasn't doing that. First off, every single time. Now he's starting to. It's like just a little bit of relationship. I'm not going to be his best man at his wedding, but he'll say like that guy actually cares about me. He's already a good hockey player, man. He's a good hockey player. He's going to do some stuff here, but he's going to say that guy might believe in me. And then that's the last thing about that is like, if you can show belief, like showing relationship is one thing, but if you can show belief, and I'm not saying belief means that you're going to get to the NHL, but if we take your weakest D, let's say, and or your weakest goalie, that is, oh my God, he's on the ice, so we might lose this one. But if you can instill some sort of confidence and teach him how to get in the zone and teach him to keep it simple and have, he notices that you do something right, you give him a pat on the back or you say, good job, buddy, that's awesome, coming along, just those little cues, that kid feels better about himself. And if he does that, a little bit of confidence, he believes that he can actually do it now. And then when the secret to life is if you believe that you can do something, if you have confidence in do it, you're going to do it. If you don't have confidence, you don't believe you're going to do it, you're going to find a million reasons, more excuses than a pregnant nun not to do it.
Yeah.
True? So relationships to me are the best. And again, at the end of the day, what are we coaching hockey for? If you coach it, now, NHL and different levels, it's a little bit different. It's more of a business, but it still holds true. If people know that you care about them, then they'll actually care back and they'll give you a little bit more. It's really that simple. Now, why are we coaching hockey? I'm not coaching to get in the NHL. So what am I doing it for? It's my job. Okay. And what else? Well, what's your philosophy again? My philosophy is in everything I do, I try to make people just a little bit better. And if that happens to be hockey, great. If it happens to be the parents just calming them down, if it happens to be talking to some mother and she starts beating herself up, I say, like, look at your kids. Like, you know, you give a couple compliments and true ones, then they go, okay, I'm okay. And it's a better world. No, I'm changing the world.
No,
but you should. Yeah. If you're coaching, you should try to change the world a little bit. Like, actually, I'm not trying to.
You have a huge impact, man. Like,
I know really that,
but on a lot of people.
But you do actually affect people's lives. And as a coach and everything, like, there's people around you all the time. And you know, one of the things that for me, I've said this before too. Going to games, like, a lot of people know us now from the podcast, and sometimes it's like, I just don't want to talk. But when someone says, I really like your podcast, it's been good for me, it's like, how can that not be a good thing? So you have to take the time to say thank you and all that stuff. And then, like you said, we made an impact somewhere. That's pretty cool. So I think it's important to understand that. Some people won't care about that. But for our identity and what we're trying to build, it's important to us. And at the end of the day, when our kids go back to Slovakia, Russia, Czech, England, Toronto, Sudbury, whatever, they're going to go back and they're going to say, that experience was freaking awesome. Eric was the best coach. The trainer was the best trainer. The facility was the best. BioSteel's the best. Or they're going to go back and say, yeah, these guys, they get on the microphone and they talk and they act like these big wheels, but it's not like that, man. It's just the truth. And then my thing is, people with integrity expect to be believed, and when they're not, they let time prove them right. So we could sit here today and say this stuff, but over time, it might be a year to 5 years or 10 years, people are going to hear the same story over and over. And I know, based on how we do things, it'll only become more positive because we're not lying, cheating, just trying to bullshit our way through. We're actually trying to make a difference in people's lives. And you know, some of them it takes more work. Some of them it's easy. We do our best. Not going to make everybody the best, but I know as coaches, that's the biggest thing, is the relationship piece, and it's important.
Yeah, well said. I do want to end on that because that was a good monologue spiel to finish off. I had like a couple things that I was gonna maybe get into, but I think I'm gonna leave it on that because I think that's a good way to finish her off. So, so just to recap, first one we said for coaches, clarity was number 1, emotional control number 2, confidence in your identity as a coach number 3, number 4 was patience with development, and then number 5 was relationship building. So, a couple things to think about. Hopefully that's useful. I'm gonna stop it there because I got another meeting I got to go to. So,
okay,
we'll see you guys next week. Bye.